All right, so thanks everyone for joining our Doug meetup for January 2026 for the Florida Panhandle, where it is not just those from the Panhandle, but anyone that wants to join. So thank you everyone for joining. Feel free to drop in the chat where you are joining us from today, because I'm very interested to know, where we're getting participants from, so we can help use that to determine the time zones or the timing of when we're gonna host these meetings. If you're not familiar with Dynamics User Group, it was a group founded in 1995, and it's one of the industry's longest running independent Microsoft community. It started as an online forum, but has grown to many different platforms. We're about 47,000 community members and growing. And this is a free community to join. So whether you're a user, implementer, reseller, or just someone who wants to learn more about the Microsoft ecosystem, you can join at dynamicsusergroup.com, and it's free to sign up. Some rules of engagement before we start. Be courteous. Ask questions, contribute to the meeting, but let everyone to participate. Since we do have a little bit of a larger crowd today, we do have the Q&A function enabled in Teams. So if you have questions, you can post them there or in the chat. We also have the hand raise feature we're going to utilize. So if you do have a question throughout the presentation, drop it in the chat or raise your hand until we can get to that question. We do want to keep this, something that as we're all learning, asking questions, but please don't monopolize questions. If you have a question or multiple, ask one, and then allow others to ask questions before asking additional questions. We want to make sure everyone gets a chance to participate here. These are some examples of the programs that Doug has out there. So this is across Business Central, Customer Engagement, GP, Finance and Supply Chain, previously called AX, or Finance and Operations, Power Platform AI, Copilot, all of the things. So there's online forums, so the Doug forums, Doug meetups, which if you are at this session, you know what a meetup is. Through the meetup platform, we have meetups. Ours is 100% virtual right now. Others around the country and around the world are virtual as well, but there are some that meet in person if you're interested in going to those. Doug regionals, so kind of larger meetups, but held in different regions. And then conferences such as DynamicsCon, which is coming up in May. This session will be recorded, or is being recorded, and will be out on the Doug YouTube. So if you want to keep track on the meetup page, once that link is available, it will be posted there. If you're excited for DynamicsCon 2026 in Las Vegas in May, you can register today. There is a QR code here to scan to get your registration. That's going to be May 12th through May 15th. DynamicsCon regionals, they are already in full swing. We did start out, was that last week or 2 weeks ago, in Tampa in January. In March, it will be in the Pacific Northwest, in Denver in April, Toronto in June, and Africa in July. So if you're in any of those areas or want to travel to them, you can check out the DynamicsCon website or Dynamics User Group website for more information. We also have Columbus, Ohio coming up in August, Montreal in September, Germany in October. That's a great time to go to Germany for Oktoberfest. So that might be a really fun one to go to. And then back to Texas in November. There's a QR code here for those meetups if you are interested in attending any of those. All right. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Rachit to give us our featured presentation on the Supplier Communication Agent. I butcher the name of that one anyway, every time.
All right. Thank you, Brittany. I'll just start sharing my screen. Just give me a thumbs up once you can see the screen. Perfect. Cool. So welcome everyone. Thank you for taking out time to attend this session. And before we move forward, I just want to give a big thanks to Dynamics User Group for organizing these events. There is a lot of effort which goes under the hood, a lot of planning and marketing. So uh, applause to Brittany and her team for making this session happen. So I'm joining today from Melbourne, Australia. So if I sound extra energetic, it may be my passion for Dynamics or maybe the coffee is kicking in now. I'm a Microsoft Dynamics finance and operations technical architect by day and community builder by night. I've been recognized as Microsoft MVP for last 3 consecutive years for my contributions in this space. Um, I do get excited with automation, Copilot, and any solution which can remove manual pain points from business processes. And Supplier Communication Agent, as you guys might have heard recently, is a very advanced way of removing these manual pain points because it uses a bit of AI under the hood. So today I will be talking through Supplier Communication Agent, and on the screen is my LinkedIn QR code. So if you wish to connect with me, feel free to send me a request. Over next 45 minutes or 1 hour, I will be talking about what Supplier Communication Agent is, how to install, and talk a bit more from a technology side. But the real value will be towards the later half of the session where we will dive deep into the Power Automate flows, Copilot Studio agents, F&O plugins to see how everything comes together to deliver the experience. But to start off and bring everyone at the common ground, I just want to spend some time talking about agents, and then we go into Supplier Communication Agent. During the session, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat window. We will have ample of time towards the end of the session to go through them. So let's start with thinking about what an agent is, because we have been hearing this term 100 times for last few years now, and how it has evolved over a period of time. So to keep it simple, think of agent as something which can automate your task, but not in the traditional if then else or predefined manner. It uses AI to automate your tasks or business process or anything which you do on your system. So the moment you infuse AI into automation, it becomes an agent. So this is the most simple way I can explain what an agent is. So I hope everyone understands what an agent is. Someone who works along with you to automate your task, but not by the rules you have defined, but by the rules they themselves, identify and execute. That's where the value of AI is. And that's what the agent delivers its value. But the agents are also, classified into various type of agents. So there are some simple agents and there are some advanced agents. Simple agents are more where you basically retrieve information from a knowledge source. So very simple example is you check in your, SharePoint sites or documents into a chatbot, and then you can talk about your documents with the chatbot and say, hey, how do I do this? What's my company policy? How many leaves I have? So you basically ground knowledge and you talk about it. That's the very simple form of agent where you are just retrieving information. The next one is basically task based, where you can then actually start introducing some actions into your copilots or agents. So an example could be in your, let's say, finance and operations sidecar panel of Copilot. You can have adaptive cards where you can actually maybe close a financial period or create a customer or close a project activity. You can actually automate things with the help of adaptive cards, a bit of AI-based topics, and some Power Automate flows. And the third level of agents are autonomous agents. And these are the real advanced agents we have right now, who basically don't need a trigger from human to be told what needs to be done. They work autonomously. They are monitoring the behaviors, the patterns, they are looking at different things, and they take action on their own. And then they notify you. So supplier communication agent, what we are talking about, falls into autonomous agent categories, which are really advanced agents, which are available as of today. So it's really important to for us as a Dynamics community professionals to understand how Microsoft has actually designed and developed and rolled out these type of agents, so that if we want to try something similar for our customers, uh, we can use the same pattern, right? So with that in mind, we will dive into introduction to supplier communication agent. So as the name suggests, supplier communication agent, it helps you to reduce your manual efforts when it comes to communicating with your suppliers. So uh, current challenges, common challenges faced by procurement teams are, you have to keep an eye on your email workload, because a lot of suppliers communicate through email. And if you are a procurement person who is dealing with hundreds of suppliers or hundred of orders, it really becomes difficult to track and keep an eye on every email. And if you have missed an important email which is related to your procurement, your entire supply chain gets disrupted, because your purchase order might be feeding into either your sales order or your production order. So there is a very heavy manual work which a lot of procurement people do in email and their outlooks. Also, the communication is sometimes unstructured, because every supplier has their own way of communicating. Some have predefined templates, some are just humans writing email randomly what comes to mind. So not everyone is writing or sending you email in a structured or a same way. So it really boils down to human interpretation. When you read an email, are you really delaying the order, or are you delivering me partial? So how do you interpret that? Communication in the email is also very error prone, because it's all currently done by humans. And because we are humans, we take time to process, digest email, look into the system. We can have delay in our responses. We do have lack of visibility, because we can't read like a lot of parallel emails in the same time, and some important email may be hiding somewhere, which you may not look the moment it arrives. You have to then manually update your ERP application. So if you might have to update your confirmation date or quantity and send back the confirmation to the suppliers. And again, this is like too much time going into manual tasks. So this is just from a business perspective, what type of challenges procurement team members face. And feel free to drop if you are across more challenges which the people face. We will definitely add that to the list. Now, how does supplier communication agent solve this business problem? So it basically comes to rescue, because it is now monitoring your mailbox. It is monitoring the setup in your ERP applications. So what it does is it helps you to automate the communication. You don't have to read every email coming in manually. Supplier communication agent can do it for you. It can draft follow-up emails. So you don't have to write, "Hi team, thanks for your email. We understand this is delayed. We are okay with this delivery dates," or "No, we really need it. It's urgent." So Copilot can draft follow-up emails for you, which you can just straight away go ahead and review it. It can also update the purchase order. So once the email comes and once it scans what type of disruption has been identified, it can actually give you a screen where you can go and seamlessly update the purchase orders. What it does is it improves your productivity and it reduces your operational cost. So all in all, it is an efficiency gain we are getting with this type of agent. This is a slide published by Microsoft Fast Track team. I'm sure if you have been following supplier communication agent in past, you must have seen this. But just to, for those who have not seen it, this is a high-level flow of procurement process where when a PO is sent to vendor, and if the vendor has not sent you the goods, you can draft a follow-up email, and when the PO confirmation is sent and a change request is received, you can actually read the email and summarize the changes via agent, and then it can also create follow-up emails. So it actually works inbound as well as outbound. It's not only monitoring what's coming in, but it's also giving you a place to draft what can go out back to your suppliers. Um, a very high level view of how the inbound process works is whenever you receive an email from your supplier, there is a concept of server-side sync in Power Platform. So that's enabled by Dataverse. So what happens is Dataverse will monitor a shared mailbox. So it's a recommendation that don't use your personal emails here because you can receive some confidential or sensitive data, but always use a shared mailbox, something like procurement@abc.com. So if you have a shared mailbox for your suppliers, that can be monitored by Dataverse. Whenever an email is received, it basically extracts that email and puts it into Dataverse tables. And then once it is in Dataverse, that is where AI is coming to picture. The AI is reading through your email and trying to identify the vendor purchase order number, and then it basically stages that email into a different table. And then through AI plugins of finance and operation, it also stages that email in finance and operations. Along with the email body, it also stages the attachments. And then what it does is, once the email is staged, once the email has passed that matching that yes, it belongs to ERP, it belongs to a supplier communication type of email, because we don't want to stage every email in ERP, right? It will then basically do the mapping and matching. This is where another type of AI behavior is infused to basically identify the purchase order, identify the lines, identify the disruption. So this is really the heart of the whole agent, because staging is okay, you are just pushing the data after identifying, but then mapping and matching is also happening to understand the inbound disruption. Similarly, on the outbound side, what happens is MCS is Microsoft Copilot agent here. So the Microsoft Copilot agent is running, and Power Automate flows are running at a recurrence. So they are constantly running, and they are actually identifying, they are reading your ERP purchase orders which are confirmed, or there is a way to define the criteria. So you tell agent, scan these type of orders which meet these conditions, and if the order has met the condition, it will actually create a follow-up email draft for you in F&O. Again, this is all happening through AI and API. So AI plus automation is what we are doing here, is agent. That's a simple mathematical formula. So so the agents will draft your follow-up email, and then you can get into action, you can review it, you can draft it, you can send the email. So this is at a very high level from a business process perspective, how the experience looks like. Setup and installation, I would say setup is pretty, installation is very easy, but setup is a little bit tricky at some places. So you need to enable server-side synchronization in Dynamics 365 email. So it's a Dataverse concept. It's not new. It has been in Dataverse space for a long time, but you need to have permissions in Power Platform Admin Center to enable this. It's recommended to use a shared mailbox, and then basically you just install a solution in PPAC, and then it brings in all the Power Automate flows and Copilot Studio agents. What you need to do is you need to actually create connection references from your end, and then you need to run a PowerShell script to update those references in these Power Automate flows and Copilot Studio agent. So if you have been creating agents and Power Automate flows, you would understand that you need a connection reference, which uses the context of that connection user for any operation. So there is a security role which you will need to assign to this user with which you are configuring your connection. So this is an important aspect, and that's where your licensing will come into. So this agent will have its own license to run, right? But for us as a user, we can view the results. Once you have installed and done the things on the Power Platform admin side, which is not as quick as I just said, it might take you some time to go through all those things, but then you should enable some features in finance and operations through feature management workspace. Once you enable these three features, which is immersive home experience, that's the entry point where you can see the actions taken by the agent. Agent management is the place where you actually go and configure your agents, and then you have to also enable supplier communication agent feature. Now in the agents module, when you go, I'll show you once I'm done with the slides. In the agents module, you have to actually enable these two particular type of agents, which allows you to define the criteria. So now we'll go a bit more deeper into Power Automate Flows and Copilot Studio. Once we are done with the slide, in another 10 to 15 minutes, I'll jump into the system. So how Power Automate works. So there are two Power Automate flows. One is for the inbound, one is for the outbound, right? So let's focus on the inbound. So what happens in this particular flow is it is triggered by a recurrence. So it's running every minute and it uses the Dataverse connector, right? So it's talking to Dataverse and it is querying a particular table, which is ERP email extracted data. So there is a table in Dataverse which gets populated once the email arrives in your mailbox. So this is where the Dataverse server side sync comes into picture. It reads your email and populates this table in Dataverse. So the task is done. Now, once the data is added into this table, it basically filters based on the modified date because based on its recurrence, and it filters on the status. So there is a status field which is identified, or there's a particular status field we will see in the Power Automate, and then it picks that record. Once it picks that record, it basically calls a Dataverse AI plugin to basically stage the email for further processing. And then this Power Automate flow calls your Copilot agent. So there are two Copilot agent which comes in the package. So this Power Automate flow is actually passing on this conversation ID and all the values to a Copilot Studio session and to start processing the email message. Now this is where AI is coming into picture. So till now it is all predefined sequence of steps, but here is the infusion of AI in the process. Now Copilot is actually looking up at this email context, the sender email address, and it's trying to call F&O APIs through Dataverse to do the email matching and mapping. So this is where everything comes together. Power Automate Flow, Copilot Studio, Dataverse APIs, and Finance and Operation X++ classes, which are exposed as AI plugins. So the real key to understand here is that Supplier Communication Agent is made up of all these four technology platforms. It's not just one agent doing everything. They all are, harmonizing their activities in a way so that the whole, event is executed properly. So Power Automate talks to Dataverse, calls Copilot Studio, calls F&O API, and the email is staged in the workspace. Okay. Now, how does the outbound Power Automate works? Again, it's another Power Automate flow, which is running on a trigger. So there is a trigger in Dataverse, which is we also call as webhook. The webhook is ERP agent activity, which is actually triggered based on the configuration you have done in the agent workspace. And then it basically, once it gets triggered, it initializes some variables, it identifies some legal entities and some email addresses and activities, and then it executes another plugin action to identify the emails and draft the email. So this, again, this particular Power Automate calls another Copilot to generate the email content and draft the email for you. Once the email is generated, it basically pushes back to F&O through APIs. So very high level, but these are the two Power Automates which are actually working, triggering Copilot Studio, talking to F&O, and doing the magic. We'll go into Power Automate in another few minutes. A very quick look at the Copilot Studio agents. So the inbound Copilot Studio agent is basically when you go to Copilot Studio, you will see the agent with the name Supplier Communication Agent Inbound. By default, it uses GPT 4.1, but now Microsoft has released more AI models which you can use. The instructions given to this Copilot is that you will receive a message ID. So this is what the Power Automate sends. And then its job is to save the content of all email and mark it as complete. And then it tells the step and it tells the constraint. So this is a Microsoft defined Copilot agent instruction. So what how it can help us is we can use these things as our own templates to define instructions when we create Copilot agent. So these are not just text. These are very deep thoughts which are fleshed out with prompt engineering and all those things. So read these instructions. This will help you really understand how to define these instructions in a Copilot Studio agent. Now, this Copilot Studio agent, now just at a very high level, agent is made up of knowledge base, tools, agents, topics. So these are the key components which you can blend to get a behavior out of Copilot Studio. Now, tools is where uh, you can actually infuse your X++ AI plugins, which are exposed as Dataverse API plugins, AI plugins, and then they are reflected here. So these tools which you see here, like it uses these 5 AI plugins. Now each of this AI plugin has its own class in X++ also. So it uses these tools to do the email extraction, email matching, and save an attachment and save the body, because you have to ingest your uh, data through APIs. And then there are some topics. Now these topics are basically what are triggered when the Copilot is called. So it will start with the element, it will complete the email, save the attachment, save the body. So each of this topic has its own configuration when we will go deep into the Copilot Studio. But basically, marks and email, uh, all these things basically go all the way back to your F&O. So a topic calls a tool calls a Dataverse API, a Dataverse API calls X++ code. So that's how things are connected. Similarly, on the outbound side, you have a supplier communication agent outbound, where you will have, if you will go, you'll see there is only one tool, save email, but it's quite lengthy under the hood. And this basically is a AI operation to basically save the email within F&O so that users can go and review the draft. And then there is a topic to store email topic. So this is triggered by the Power Automate flow. Okay, so far so good. But now the real magic is actually happening in F&O also. So I was actually looking at how many objects in F&O are related to supplier communication agent. So in F&O, we have a concept of application object tree, which has all the table, classes, forms, security objects, everything which comes together to give that user experience in F&O. There are actually, like my calculation through some PowerShell scripts is, there are more than 120 AOT objects which bring together, which are part of supplier communication agent. So if you are thinking to create a new agent, something similar, keep in mind you will need some F&O development as well. The maximum number of count is on the classes side. So there are 74 classes. X++ code is written in these classes, which does all the staging, matching, calculations. A lot of business logic is written in X++ here. And then rest are like forms, which is your agentic workspace from where you can go and view the information which has been fleshed out by the agent. There is a workspace, there are queries, some security objects, which needs to be attached to a user. But the real call out is there are 74 X++ AX classes written here. So uh, again, cannot list every object, but I have listed out some key tables and classes here, which are participating in this process. So you have Copilot inbound stage email custom API. So this is an AI plugin to stage inbound data, and then it saves data into the tables. So this is not like OData call. Copilot is calling these AI plugins, and these AI plugins are receiving the JSON string, and these are being parsed, and then actions are taken in F&O. There are tables to stage the incoming email. There is a class to stage the email attachments. There is a table to stage the email attachments. Then there is an email matching custom API. So this is the name of the class. If you like reading code, you can open the Visual Studio, read the code in this class, and you can see how this is all done. And then there are classes to save the follow-up tasks and follow-up emails. And this is a form, Purge Copilot Inbound Email Workspace, which is where the user interaction happen. So with all this scene setting, let's dive into the actual application. I'll just stop sharing for a minute and I'll switch to a browser. I'll share my screen. Is it visible now? Can someone confirm? Yeah, thank you. So basically, what you see is the immersive workspace. This was one of the prerequisite to work with Supplier Communication Agent. You can actually enable it through either through feature management, or you will see a new pop-up has started coming if you are using the traditional dashboards. So once you enable the workspace, on the top right-hand corner, you can see your agents and their activities. So this section basically shows you the activities from different agents. So even the account reconciliation agent uses similar framework. We are focusing more on purchase order updates from supplier. This is where the incoming emails are tracked and are brought to your notice that a supplier has sent an email where supply is disrupted. And this section shows purchase order follow-up. So these are the emails which the agents has drafted for you to review to uh, further talk to your suppliers. Before I dive into this, there is a button to view agents. This is where you can actually configure your agents and you can view all the agents. So when in the manage section, you see all the agents which are actually running and you have already configured. In the library, you can see any additional agents which you can further configure in the system. Now, if we look at the inbound side, this is multiple agents I've configured. And again, you can configure multiple instances of these agents, and each instance can have its own conditions. So if I click on this particular collapse button and I can click on edit, here I can define that when a specific supplier sends an email or any supplier sends an email. So this becomes a condition, send an to this particular mailbox, then show me summary of changes. So this is pretty basic because you can only talk about one supplier or multiple supplier and one mailbox or multiple mailboxes. So here you can basically enable your inbound conditions. Uh, you can be a bit more creative when you have to generate the follow-up emails. So this is where you get more flexibility to define your own definition of what is actually a delayed purchase order. So when you say a delayed purchase order, then what is the condition that is defined in these criteria? Now it can be different for different people. Delayed purchase order could be where the confirmed receipt date has passed between today and last 60 days, or it could be last 5 days. The delivery remainder is not zero, and you can define your own condition here. So you can add a field, and in the lookup you will get ability to define all the purchase line fields and purchase header fields. But you also can actually go to advanced query mode where you get the traditional query dialog where you can actually add more tables, add more joins, and if you understand the data structures, you can actually add more tables here. And you can define whatever condition you want to tell agent to identify an order as a delayed purchase order. So all this decoding of condition is happening in those X++ API classes. Now you want to draft an email per purchase order or per supplier can also be defined. You can either have one email which clubs information of all the delayed orders from that supplier, or you can draft one email per purchase order. You can use a tone, what tone you want, and then you can actually select which fields should the agent include in the email which is being drafted. So this gives you another flexibility to expose what fields you want to be included in the email which the agent is drafting. So this is from a system configuration perspective, which we should be aware of, that um, we as procurement teams and users can define our own conditions for these agents to run, and we can define multiple instances of these agents to execute. Now, let's look at what an incoming email looks like. So basically, if I click on this navigation, It will take me to a screen. Again, this is an F&O screen where it shows all the identified emails which the agent has detected from your mailbox. And it is saying, again, this is Contoso demo database. So in my case, I can let an authority deliver live cam HD cameras, but just for the sample data, I configured this vendor and defined a primary email address, confirmed a purchase order, and then sent an email that the order is being delayed. So the email which I sent is also captured here. So I sent this email from my personal email that we can only deliver 50 units of item this by this, please, by this date, please confirm. So I've just written a very simple human written language here that we can only deliver 50 units, you have ordered 100. Now the system has actually identified that this email came from a contact of this vendor, and we are talking about this purchase order and this particular line, and my confirmed receipt date is 27th of January, and I can only 250 quantities. So this is how, this is like the end result of this whole, all these components. But now as a procurement team, you don't need to go to your mailbox and understand what's the impact and identify the purchase order. You can actually come here, you can look at the changes, and you can actually apply the suggestion. And this can actually, maybe I have done something wrong, but I can edit it here. It can actually then update your purchase order here. Similarly, you can have for multiple suppliers. In this is an example where system could not identify. So there are scenarios where the system is not able to identify the purchase order number, although I clearly mentioned it. So I've given this feedback to Microsoft that the AI model is sometimes not able to do the proper identification. There are a lot of videos on this user experience. What I actually want to dive deep is today is a bit on the Power Automate flows and the Copilot Studio agent. So as I told you, there are two Power Automate flows which come as a part of Supplier Communication Agent solution. So let's quickly look into the speed up updates. So I'm in Power Automate. You can go to My Flows, click on this particular agent. Here you can see all the history, how it has been running. One nice thing is if you want to go really deep, go to All Runs, and then you download this CSV file. And this CSV file will have the input and output of each step. It's really good information to understand what type of payloads were received, what was the output at each step. So if you really want to go deep, download these logs and analyze them. Here you can see the connection references. Sorry. So this is where we define the connection references with a dedicated account, and we have to run a PowerShell script to basically enable these connections. And that PowerShell script is actually available on Microsoft Docs. So this is that PowerShell script which enables this connection reference. Now, if we click on Edit, this is where we can actually go deep into the Power Automate flows, and we can start, looking and analyzing what is happening. So it's running at a recurrence, and then it sets a variable for 1 minute, sorry, for 1 hour. This is where it is reading the data words table. So here you see it is extracting data from this table, email extracted data. This is a table in Dataverse where the server-side sync is feeding all your incoming emails. Then it filters based on a modified date, which is in last 1 hour. And this is the status. This is for the status extracted. Now, in some scenarios, we have noticed that the status is not changed to extracted. Again, that has been raised with Microsoft as a feedback, but hopefully that should be fixed soon. But once the data is extracted, it initializes the conversation ID. These are just variables which system is initializing, but this is where the real magic is happening. It checks that if the email has been staged before, this is where it is calling a custom action. And then if it finds that the email has not been set before, then it sets the new conversation ID, which is sent to Copilot Studio. This is where it starts the execution of Copilot. So this is the place where Power Automate Flow is actually calling Copilot Studio and passing it this internet message ID. Now this Copilot Studio is Supplier Communication Agent inbound with the conversation ID with the internet message ID. So if I for a minute go to that particular Supplier Communication Agent, so if I go to my agents and I look at my Supplier Communication Agent inbound, this is where all the things are coming together. So here you will see that the instruction was that you will receive a message ID, the internet message ID. And this internet message ID is the one we are passing from the uh, Power Automate flows. See, it says you will receive an internet message identifier, and this is where we are passing that identifier. So this is basically you are triggering the Copilot Studio. Now this Copilot Studio has its own topics and tools. We'll dive there, but just let's come back to Power Automate. So what it does is once the Copilot has responded, it will parse the JSON. It will identify the body. It will set a variable. Now again, this is a JSON it's calling. Then it's checking a condition, and then it again goes into another Copilot Studio. Now see, again, it is calling that Copilot Studio agent inbound to execute and append the attachments. So this is where it is doing for the attachments. It's calling it again for the attachments. So first it called for the body, then it's calling for the attachments, and then it again parses the JSON, and then append to activities is basically a table in Dataverse. So there is a table named Dataverse in, there is a table named activity in Dataverse where the results are stored. So if you browse that table, you will be able to see what all activities are happening. So that's where you can. So this keeps on, doing until this condition is met, and then it comes out. So this is the Power Automate, which basically is doing all the magic. What you can also do is if you're more a pro coder, you can actually go to code view and you can read this code, how it is doing. If you are more into configuration, you can look at here. So this is how the inbound agent for the Power Automate looks like. Let's quickly look at the topics and the tools. So basically, when you go to the topics, these are the topics and these are the tools. So now tool is basically a AI plugin which sits in Dataverse. So these are all AI plugins, and each of these AI plugin is actually linked to a Dataverse AI endpoint, which basically is then in turn linked to F&O. So if you have to look at this, let's say open code view, you will see that it's calling this particular operation, right? So this also exists in F&O, and these are all the basically X++ classes which are extending, which are implementing the custom API interface, and that's how things are getting exposed. So there is a connection all the way from X++ to these tools here in Supplier Communication Agent. The main thing is topic, because topic is what gets executed. So when you get let's say complete email topic, here is what you can see that how the uh, tools are called from the topic. So this particular tool to mark an email as ready for match is called from this particular topic. So each topic has its predefined sequence of tools which it calls. So this particular topic is calling the mark email as ready for matching, and then match an email tool. So all these tools are called, and then the output is further passed into these variables. Again, you can go and open all of this in code, and this is much easier to read if you want to read it from the code perspective. So this is the Copilot Studio for the inbound. Also, all of these plugin operations can be found in your Dataverse. So when you go to your Dataverse APIs, you can actually find that all of those tools which are exposed as AI plugins can be seen in your Dataverse. And here, this particular, so if you copy this thing and if you go to your application object tree and you try to filter it, you will find actually a class with the same name. This is your AI plugin in X++. So when the Dataverse AI plugin is called, it actually invokes this X++ class, and this has all this logic to follow up and get configuration for email, and it creates an email body, and it basically updates the status, and it basically stages all the data in the required table. So all this communication is not happening through OData APIs, it's happening through AI plugins. So all the data from Copilot Studio all the way to X++ is sent through AI plugins, and X++ code is playing a very important role in this particular agent, right? Last thing, quickly, I'll show you the outbound type, outbound agent. I'll also have actually captured a successful execution of this inbound flow, where you can actually see the records in the output window. So it will get a bit more technical, but that's what I told in the beginning. If you go to the execution log, you can download the execution log and you can look at all these things which are, extracted and captured during the execution. I'll quickly go to the outbound supplier communication agent flow. So this particular agent is the send follow-up emails to vendor. Uh, Now you will also see some self-heal agents. Self-heals are basically they sort of fine-tune the results. They also keep running at the background, but they are not the real drivers. The real drivers are these two. These are like the supporting flows, which helps things keep in shape and keeps the playground nice and tidy for these agents to run. So the send follow-up email is the one which identifies your delayed purchase orders, and it talks to Copilot Studio, which creates your draft emails. So what happens is, again, this is triggered. This is based on a trigger. So this agent is triggered when this particular from the ERP agent activity table, and it filters on this particular row with this scope, and then it initializes a lot of variables. This flow is actually quite big, although it does email generation, but it basically goes into the scanning of identification of these emails of these orders once they have been identified, and then it actually calls Copilot Studio somewhere here, right here. So it sets the conversation ID, it calls Copilot Studio, supplier communication agent outbound with a conversation ID and with the email generation info. All this is captured through F&O, through AI plugins, sent to Copilot Studio, and then it basically runs the case, and then it generates the email, and then it basically triggers the Copilot again to basically seed the emails into the F&O, and then it keeps running in loop. Again, these are quite big Power Automate flows and Copilot Studios, which are coming together to do this experience. So the more you dive deep into it and understand how Microsoft has wired these platforms, the more comfortable you will become in understanding how it works. But this is just to showcase that initial concept of automation plus AI is an agent. So this is where your predefined steps are talking with AI agents to get you the desired output. Um, I just want to switch back to my slide for a minute, and then we'll open up for Q&A. So we were at this slide way to, yep, so we have done all this. We have done the Power Automate and now Copilot Studio. So basically, just to summarize, right? So the summary is F&O summary. So the summary is that every platform is playing its role. Supplier Communication Agent is made up of Finance and Operations, Dataverse, Power Automate Flows, and Copilot Studio. And all of these things are coming together to give that experience to the user. So this is something, a key takeaway from this session, that this is how the agents are built. And there are some really great videos out there on YouTube where supplier communication agent has been showcased from the user experience perspective. Our MVPs have also done some demos and demonstrations and deep dives. We have Microsoft Dynamics User Group for India, where fast track architects have presented Microsoft Fast Track team has also presented some demos. So I will share this slide with Brittany, and you guys can watch these demos to see the user experience. But this session was more from a technology side where we unpacked how different things are actually wired under the hood. So with that, I would like to basically thanks sorry, just a minute. I just need to go to the next slide. Yeah. So thank you everyone for listening to me, and thank you once again, Brittany and Doug Group, for organizing this session. I am okay to take any questions. If there are any questions, feel free to unmute or share with us in the chat window. Yep. So Digvin is asking question around the cost of running these agents, specifically which Copilot license is required to operate these agents, what should the license be associated at a user level? Additionally, could you provide an overview of the credit token consumption for each inbound and outbound interaction? So this is a great question, Digvin. Again, it's a bit messy to answer this because the Copilot, yes, there is charge. Copilot agent is built on number of messages consumed during the execution, and it really depends on how many attachments, how many emails you are receiving. I can share with you there is a Microsoft pack where they have shared the cost of it, but again, it's not very straightforward. It depends on the consumption. It's a consumption based. So everything in Dataverse is consumption based, right? So uh, depends on number of messages consumed in processing. We can find out the cost. Now there is a license requirement also. So you remember the connection references? The connection references needs to be set up with a dedicated user account, and the license needs to be assigned to that account with which the connection reference is set up. But for the end users, they don't need any additional, premium license. They can, with their basic finance or basic supply chain license, they can view the data in this workspace. Again, their security role will needs to be configured, which is again falling back into those 120 plus AOT objects which are related to supplier communication agent, because there are privileges which needs to be assigned, which is documented in Microsoft Learn. But at the agent level, yes, license is needed, security role is needed. At the user level, your security role permissions needs to be enabled for you to view the output of these forms. So I think there is a form which is for this workspace, and that form has a privilege. You can add that. Token consumption is happening every time you are running these Power Automate flows or Copilot Studio. Sorry, for the Copilot Studio, it's messages. For Power Automate flow, it's your normal Power Platform licensing, which comes into picture. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Rachit.
Problem. Any other question anyone has? Cool. Okay, there's a question from Rohit. When using Supplier Communication Agent, if there are no shared mailbox configured yet, how does the agent still read and use historical email conversation? So you can configure a normal mailbox also if you are doing some evaluation purpose. Now, agent will not read your email. The Dataverse server-side sync feature will push your email contents to a Dataverse table, and that is read by Power Automate flow, and that is passed to Copilot agent. So Copilot agent is not reading your complete mailbox. Copilot agent is only reading the message conversation IDs which Power Automate is passing to it. Now, I am not sure if it will work with historic emails. I am not sure on that question. Maybe in the Dataverse server side sync, there might be something to, do an initial synchronization of your mailbox, which can push everything. But I'm not sure on that. Cool. If there is any other question, we can hang around for some more time. Otherwise, I'll pass it back to Brittany in a few minutes.
I'll throw a question out there. Have you tried extending the supplier communication agent yet, or have you just only worked with it out of the box so far?
A great question, Brittany. So Supplier Communication Agent is a managed solution by Microsoft, so we cannot edit it directly. So that's the short answer. That's my understanding. Even the X++ classes, their methods are decorated with internal keywords, so we cannot extend them. I believe Microsoft should do something about it. Otherwise, what I have seen is we can actually create a copy of these Power Automate flows or agents. But then again, if you create a copy, you'll have to duplicate a lot of stuff, which is not really a recommended thing to do. But yeah, we are just leaving it the way it is out of the box. Yeah. If anyone has extended, or if I may be wrong, but happy to be corrected. But so far, what I have seen is most of the classes are either internal or the methods are decorated as private methods. So we can't really extend them.
All right. Any other questions?
I actually have found one quick flyer on the costing side. If I'll just quickly share on the screen. So it's this one. So here is this monetization. Here. So this one, right? So Copilot Studio is a consumption service. You can have pay as you go thingy, and then this is the way, like agent actions for each 5 messages you have built, because it's an agent. And then basically Microsoft gave a breakup of an example where if a purchase order is sent to vendor, where this agent is sending reminders, then agent is writing an email. That's one action. Each action consumes 5 messages. Then agent reading the email is 4 actions, which is 20 messages, and agent reading an email attachment is 2 actions, which is 10 messages. So total 35 messages will cost you around 35 cents. So that's a rough calculation which Microsoft has published. I hope that helps. Cool. Anything else? All good. Then I'll hand it over back to Brittany. And Brittany and Doug, thanks a lot for having these platforms and doing all the efforts to have this impact on the community. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for presenting on the supplier communication agent. I know this is a hot topic right now, so thank you so much for taking your time to share with us. Thank you everyone for joining. If anyone here is inspired to present at a future session, feel free to reach out to myself. Or if you have topics you would like to see us cover in the future, also feel free to reach out. But that's all we have for today. So thanks everyone for joining, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.